I was born into a godly Christian family. My dad, Dr. Benjamin Shu, he was the one, and together with Mom, who really influenced my childhood years. I was still very young, between 5 and 8 years old enough to see the atrocities of war. Because my dad was a doctor, the Japanese used him. I still remember a gory scene. My dad tried to protect his kids, but we were driving along Kallang Bridge, is one of the main bridges in Singapore. And there were all these human heads that were hung right there, bleeding.
Wow.
Really, we hated the Japanese. The Lord rebuked him for that hate because he was treating these Japanese casualties, and he met a Japanese Christian who had a terminal disease, and asked my dad to promise to tell his folks that he was okay, that he was going to be with the Lord. That changed my dad's whole attitude. So years later, when the Japanese delegation came to Singapore to ask for forgiveness, my dad led a delegation to welcome them, and when they did that, he mentioned to them that we are the ones who need to ask you for forgiveness because we hated you. So that was real reconciliation. Multiply by focusing on one person becoming 1,000. When I was working with Youth for Christ, I focused on that one person. Philip and his family, etc., became more than 1,000, tens of thousands probably. So that was with Youth for Christ. He was in high school then. My best buddy was an Indian by the name of Dana Bala. Brilliant person, brainy, and we would be in sports together, we would study together. But while we were in university, he wanted to join the Varsity Christian Fellowship. I said, well, you just come along, Dana heard the gospel, and he was transformed. It's like the Apostle Paul. So he came to me and he says, I've given my life to the Lord. I say, hey, come on, this is serious stuff, it's all or nothing. He says, yeah, I've given. Never looked back since then. So we started a university ministry, two of us, and when we were staying in the hostels, we had Bible studies in the Gospel of John, and began to lead our buddies to Christ. I can't remember, there were probably 20 or 30 who came to the Lord. Thankful to see spiritual children growing, multiply. As Apostle John, he says, I have no greater joy than to see that children walk in truth. But they also had a specialized ministry with delinquents and people with that kind of a background. And when the Navigators came, we also got involved with that. I mean, I had sort of fun going with some of the gangsters who had come to Christ, like Richard Sue. I still remember going out with Richard into Gangland, a district called Geylang. It's not too far from here. And we met the #1 gang leader and started to witness to him. It was kind of fun to go with these gangsters. You go out to have dinner with them, and it's all free because all the hawkers, they're so scared of these gangsters with protection money, so they give you a free meal. So a free meal. So I remember it was pretty close to midnight. We were sharing the gospel to him, and this whole gang coming in, rushing in, and telling the gang leader, "You got to come with us. We just had a fight with another rival gang. We need you to come." So he shouted at them. He says, "Can you see I'm in important business talking to these friends of mine? Get lost." He was talking to him about the gospel. And our church had a ministry also with some of these. In fact, one of the guys, he had killed somebody else, but he was underage. I think he was 14 or 15. So it was a death penalty, but he escaped the death penalty. And he was discipled by the church. He's a church pastor today, and he's dealing with all these prisoners. But it was a big problem, gangsterism at that time. There was also the threat of communism at that time. So it was a very tense period of Singapore history. Thankfully at that time there was amazing receptivity to the gospel to lay the foundations for the church.
Did you get married at the Glen, or did you get married
No,
over here?
I got married in Singapore on 14th April 1962 at our church. In scripture memory, she is so good at it in Bible study. One of the elements in our work is what I call the whole issue of depth. Depth in your walk with God, depth in the Word. I find that in my wife. Whenever we meet together for couples Bible studies, I believe the couples don't get very much from me. I get a whole lot from my wife. We have had all kinds of trainees. We have had about 150 people live with us in the first 10 years of our ministry. But I went overboard and had, I think, too many stay with us over a period of time, and my wife practically suffered burnout as a result. I was not too sensitive on that one. Some of them come from what you call so-called training. Of course, all the guys, including guys like, like David Bog and so on, they wanted all their girlfriends to get home to learn from Selene, because they learned so much from her. She's just one amazing woman. A little over 2 years working under Roy Robertson, I felt that God was calling us to have a more focused student ministry. We did work with students, and I discipled some people with Roy at that time, but Roy kept me busy with him going into Malaysia for what he called his 30 mighty men, and of course they had 30 godly girls, to train them in the context of mass evangelism. So we would go right up into the villages of Malaysia with OMF and other groups. Lon came to Malaysia in '65, met him at the airport. We drove to the university campus, looked at it, and went on a hill where we could see down below the University of Malaya campus. We were in a suburb called Petaling Jaya, where the university was and is. And we prayed, and Lon, after we prayed, claimed promises. Lon says, as far as I'm concerned, you can come here tomorrow. It wasn't tomorrow, it was a few months more, but I opened the work in Malaysia in March 1966. And the rest is history. I would have liked to stay in Malaysia longer, because I raised disciple makers and leaders, but I would like to see them basically, further. But then I looked and the word Jesus, when he finished with the 12, he didn't bring them very far along. In fact, they were pretty much in a mess, some of them. But he was so confident that the Holy Spirit would teach them. So I was, pretty surrendered on that. Getting into the Word and prayer was so basic. And the quiet time and Bible study were two of the basic disciplines that I felt was very important. So I would have daily quiet times with both people I had led to the Lord or with the members of my team. Sometimes 2 or 3 quiet times a week, 5:30 or 6 in the morning with different students. And same with the scripture memory. Quiet, the one sitting, correctly quoted, unassisted, including references, eliminating doubt. Who was it? Bob Munger says, discipline without desire is drudgery. So discipline with desire is delight. In other words, you want to do it. That kind of discipline, if they're really excited about it, it really recruits them. I had each one of our ministry team people, or sometimes 2 of them, focusing on a particular residential college. And some of them stayed in the college where we did evangelism. We tried everything. In one particular college, they focused on evangelistic Bible studies. Another one, they focused on cold turkey. Another one, they focused on friendship. Another one, amongst the girls, I don't know, they had a whole mix. The delight was there. So they came up with these ideas, because a person will only die for his own ideas. God uses all kinds of ways to get people. I said, my own desire is, just sit down and get people into the scriptures over a period of time. And we found that whatever method you use, it's God who gives the increase. So we had people coming to the Lord. So people say, well, which methods? I said, I don't think the method's that important. Not only my team, but the converts we had, I would say they were 99.999% from a non-Christian background. We want these people to live with us so that they can see what a Christian home is all about. If you're going to have a group like that, you've got to be the pace setter. Yeah. So they were the ones who sharpened me. I spend lots of time with them personally, weep with them. I always believe that you've got to help people to be the best they can be. A leader is primarily a servant. Leadership is influence. So how do you influence tigers? Not by being a tiger yourself, You go on your knees a lot, you got to pray a lot, you got to give a lot of time, you got to waste your time with these people. You know, that's why I think if you really want to mentor leaders, there's no substitute for the within principle. So I had to learn how to lead tigers. That was not easy.
Jesus, I thank you for loving me. Thank you for the sacrifice you gave on Calvary.